The black man down the street. He's outside doing something. It looks unusual. That's how the 911 call began. Elijah Jones was just trying to secure his Wi-Fi, but in a predominantly white neighborhood, his simple act drew immediate suspicion. Imagine the indignity of having your every move scrutinized, judged not by your actions, but by the color of your skin. What happened next will leave you seething with injustice. Were the neighbor's fears justified, or was this a clear case of racial profiling with devastating consequences? Subscribe now and tell me in the comments, have you witnessed or experienced this kind of prejudice? Let's unpack this together. Elijah Jones kept to himself, working remotely from his modest home on Willow Creek Lane. He maintained his yard meticulously and spoke to his neighbors, mostly white, only when absolutely necessary. He preferred it that way. A black man in a predominantly white suburb often felt like he was under a microscope anyway. One Thursday afternoon, Elijah's internet acted up again. Sluggish speeds, buffering videos. The usual frustration. He suspected his provider, but a nagging feeling told him to investigate. Pulling up his router settings, he spotted an unfamiliar device labeled Willow Creek 01. That was odd. Elijah lived alone. Beyond his phone, laptop, and smart TV, nothing else should be connected. He certainly hadn't shared his password. Annoyed, he kicked off the unknown device and reset his password. Stepping onto his porch for better reception, he leaned against the railing, typing in the new credentials. That's when Karen Miller saw him from her bay window. Karen, a pillar of the neighborhood watch and known for her keen observations, watched Elijah intently. He was out there, fiddling with his phone, his brow furrowed in concentration. To her, it looked suspicious. She'd always been a little uneasy around Elijah. He didn't participate in the neighborhood barbecues, barely nodded when they passed on the sidewalk, and always seemed to be watching, even though he never made eye contact. Her mind raced. Hacking? Stealing information? It wasn't like the old days when everyone knew everyone. Now, with strangers moving in, her gut churned with a familiar unease, the kind she felt when young black men loitered near the community park. Before she could second-guess herself, Karen grabbed her phone and dialed 911. Yes, I need to report something suspicious. My neighbor, the black man down the street, he's outside doing something with his phone. It looks unusual. Can you send someone to check it out? Her voice held a note of urgency, tinged with barely concealed apprehension. The dispatcher asked for details, but Karen's answers were vague, fueled more by instinct and ingrained biases than concrete evidence. He just doesn't look right. He's always by himself. Now he's out there messing with something. It feels off. As Officers Miller, no relation, and Davies pulled up to Elijah's curb, sirens briefly cutting through the quiet afternoon, Elijah had no idea his peaceful day was about to be disrupted. Officer Miller, a young white officer, approached Elijah with a cautious demeanor, his hand instinctively near his sidearm. Officer Davies, also white and more seasoned, followed closely. Sir, Officer Miller began, his tone neutral but firm. We received a call about suspicious activity. He glanced pointedly at Elijah's phone. Care to tell us what you're doing? Elijah frowned, looking from one officer to the other. Suspicious activity. Standing on his own porch. I'm changing my Wi-Fi password, he said, his voice calm, but with an undercurrent of annoyance. He'd been through this before. The extra scrutiny, the assumption. Officer Davies exchanged a quick look with Miller before addressing Elijah. Do you live here, sir? Elijah almost laughed, the absurdity of the question hitting him. His car was in the driveway. Bills with his name on them arrived daily. Yet here they were, asking, Yes, officers, I've lived here for 3 years. He crossed his arms, a defensive posture he'd learned was often necessary. Before Davies could reply, Karen's voice rang out from her porch. He's lying. He's always doing something out there. Elijah turned to see Karen standing on her porch, arms crossed, her expression tight with suspicion. He's always on that phone looking around like he's watching us. Now he's been standing in the same spot for 10 minutes, just tapping away. Ma'am, Officer Davies interjected, his tone placating. We're speaking with Mr. Jones now. I was in my rotor settings, Elijah said flatly, addressing the officers, because someone I don't know has been using my Wi-Fi. Karen scoffed. Oh, sure. That's what they all say. Officer Miller turned to Karen. Ma'am, do you have any actual evidence that Mr. Jones has committed a crime? Karen hesitated. Evidence? No, just a feeling. A feeling rooted in the fact that Elijah was different, an outsider in their seemingly homogeneous community. I just think you should check. Officer Davies sighed, his patience wearing thin. He turned back to Elijah. Sir, would you mind if we take a quick look at your rotor settings, just to clear this up? Elijah's jaw tightened. He shouldn't have to prove his innocence, but he knew how these situations could escalate, especially for someone like him. Fine, he muttered, unlocking his phone and pulling up the settings. Here, take a look. Officer Miller leaned in, his eyes scanning the list of connected devices, and then his expression changed. There it was. Willow Creek. Who owns that device, sir? Miller asked, his tone now more serious. Not me, Elijah replied, shaking his head. I don't know who it belongs to. Officer Davies stepped closer, eyebrows raised. So someone's been using your Wi-Fi without permission. Elijah nodded. And I don't think they were just stealing internet. Look at the connection logs. It's been running non-stop. Someone's been watching. Officer Miller's posture shifted. This wasn't just a petty neighbor dispute. Karen, still on her porch, suddenly looked less certain. Wait, watching, she stammered. Elijah turned to her, his eyes holding a weary knowing. Yes, ma'am. Spying. And they might be watching all of us. The silence that fell over Willow Creek Lane was heavy with unspoken biases and dawning unease. Inside Elijah's home, the officers examined his rotor logs on his laptop screen. The device list confirmed Willow Creek 01 was still active. Can you trace what kind of device this is? Officer Miller asked. Elijah clicked through the settings. I can't get a precise identification, but he opened the activity logs and froze. What is it? Officer Davies prompted. Elijah's voice was strained. It's been accessing camera feeds. Karen gasped from the doorway, where she'd hesitantly followed them in. Camera feeds? What camera feeds? Mine, Elijah said, turning the laptop so they could see. My home security cameras. Someone's been logging in and watching my live feeds. He scrolled further down the logs. But it's not just mine. Multiple IP addresses were flagged. Some familiar from his own network. Others different. Oh, this is bad. What do you mean? Officer Miller pressed. Look, Elijah pointed to the screen. Whoever this is, they're not just watching me. They're watching other people in the neighborhood. Karen took a step back, her face pale. No, that can't be right. You sure about that, Karen? Elijah asked, his voice laced with a pointed sarcasm. He clicked on another log. A new feed opened. A dimly lit living room. Undeniably Karen's. She gasped, clutching her chest. How the hell is this happening? Officer Davies muttered. If I had to guess, Elijah said, a bitter edge to his voice. Someone in the neighborhood set up a fake network. A Wi-Fi signal that looks legitimate. People unknowingly connect, and their devices get compromised. The man in the middle attack, Officer Miller confirmed, his expression grim. Exactly. So you're saying someone's been watching me? My home? Karen's voice trembled. That's exactly what I'm saying, Elijah replied, the weight of the situation settling heavily in the room. A stark contrast to the initial suspicion directed at him. The IP logs revealed the data wasn't going to some distant server. It was being routed to an address just a few doors down. Karen's eyes widened in disbelief. Someone close by. Elijah nodded, cross-referencing timestamps and signal strength. Within minutes, he had a match. His stomach dropped. He recognized the address. Karen did too. No, she whispered, shaking her head. It can't be. It's Kevin's house. Elijah stated, the realization sinking in. Kevin Miller, Karen's nephew, a quiet, tech-savvy college student who often stayed with her, the young white man who barely acknowledged Elijah's existence. Karen's face crumpled. No, that doesn't make any sense. Kevin wouldn't. Officer Davis stepped in. We need to talk to him. At Karen's house, the air was thick with disbelief. Kevin, confronted with the evidence, initially denied everything, but when Officer Miller mentioned the specific IP address and the timestamps aligning with his online activity, Kevin's facade crumbled. It started as a joke, he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. I just wanted to see if I could, mess with people. Mess with them by accessing their private security cameras. Elijah asked, his voice cutting through the tense silence. Kevin remained silent. How many people have you watched? Officer Davies pressed. Kevin shrugged, a gesture of feigned ignorance that didn't fool anyone. Tears streamed down Karen's face. Kevin, why? I don't know, he stammered, finally looking at his aunt, a flicker of guilt in his eyes. I just got curious. Officer Miller placed Kevin under arrest. As they led him away, he turned to Elijah, who had followed them outside. You were right, Mr. Jones, Officer Miller admitted, a hint of embarrassment in his voice. If you hadn't noticed this. Elijah just nodded, his gaze lingering on Karen's distraught figure. You know what's ironic, he said, his voice quiet but firm. I was just trying to secure my own privacy, and suddenly I was the one being treated like a criminal. He looked directly at Karen. Maybe next time, before you jump to conclusions, you'll consider that the person who looks different isn't always the threat. Karen could only nod, tears still falling. The real danger had been lurking within her own family, masked by a veneer of normalcy while she had been so quick to suspect her black neighbor. As Elijah walked back to his house, the weight of the afternoon settled upon him. It wasn't just the violation of his privacy, but the ingrained suspicion he constantly faced, simply because of the color of his skin. He hoped, for Karen's sake and for the sake of their community, that this incident would be a harsh but necessary lesson about the insidious nature of prejudice and the importance of looking beyond superficial differences to see the truth. The assumptions made on Willow Creek Lane that day had revealed a far more disturbing reality than anyone had initially imagined. This story reminds us that snap judgments, especially those tinged with bias, can blind us to the truth and harm innocent people. Take a breath before you assume, look deeper than appearances, and remember that our biases can paint misleading pictures. Real connection comes from understanding, not suspicion. Hey, if this story resonated with you and got you thinking, hit that like button. Your comments mean a ton. Share what you took away from Elijah's experience. And if you enjoy stories that explore the complexities of human nature right here on my channel, be sure to subscribe. Let's keep the conversation going.